I have an outstanding tip for you on how to restore old dried out rubber. What I don't know is if it's going to translate well to a video. So it's a great tip, but is it going to be a great video? I guess we'll just have to find out together.
Greetings, fellow DIYer, and welcome to my video.
I started out in car restoration in the Mustang community, and let me tell you what, I had it easy. Any rubber seals or anything that goes into a Mustang is pretty much made in reproduction. So I didn't have to worry about any kind of rubber drying out, being old, being brittle, that kind of thing. And then I got my 62 Galaxy, and let me tell you what, there are some aftermarket options for Galaxies, but 62 is the red-headed stepchild for Galaxies. Very little on a 62 was used on a 61 and earlier. Very little on a 62 was used on a 63 or later. And so trying to find replacement parts, you're almost completely stuck finding a NOS part, using what came on the car, or trying to find something that's on a junker car. But if you're using what came on the car, or you're finding something from a junker car, you're dealing with rubber that is over 60 years old. And I'm here to tell you, after 60 years, it will be dried out and it will be brittle. The good news is there is a super easy fix for brittle rubber, and that is Pine Sol. All you have to do is soak old rubber parts in Pine Sol, and they will become soft and supple. They will no longer be brittle, and in most cases, they will return to their original dimension, that kind of thing. Now, what this won't do is it's not going to fix cracks. So this is not an option for any rubber that has to seal out fluids. But for dust boots, for body plugs, any of those kind of things, this is an outstanding solution. You could even use this on the rubber on, say, like a wing window that's not seeing tons of moisture. The problem I'm having, and why this may only be an okay video, is all the rubber in my shop is either new or newish because it's destined for the Mustang, or it's already been treated. And I scoured high and low, and finally in a box, I found the old sway bar links from my 62 Galaxy when I upgraded to a 1-inch. These are not great to show you how well this works, but we're going to try it. Even if these don't look much different after I've soaked them, this is an outstanding technique. I've used this for tons of rubber parts, but hopefully you will see a difference on these. So we have two here that are in really bad shape, where they're starting to break, coming apart. And again, the Pine Sol's not going to glue those breaks together, but it may, we'll see, some results do vary, it may take it back closer to its original shape. These other three are definitely deformed. They're not their original shape, and they are definitely not super supple. So I guess we'll find out if these are a good test platform for the Pine Sol. So let's put these in a bucket, pour some Pine Sol on them, let them soak for a while, and then we can look at some results. So there's no special technique here. I washed these rubber pieces. Obviously I didn't do a very good job because there's still some grit and grime on there. But I was trying to get most of the crud off, not because the Pine Sol wouldn't also help take that crud off, but because I wanted to get down to the rubber to give the Pine Sol the best opportunity to penetrate. So we just put the pieces in a bucket, preferably with a lid because the smell of Pine Sol is strong, and put in enough Pine Sol to cover it up. We'll come back in a day or two, and hopefully we will see a significant difference in these pieces. So these have been soaking for 2 days, kind of. We'll circle back to that in a minute. And we have some results. Looks pretty much the same as it did when I dropped them in. As I said in my open, these pieces of rubber were a terrible choice to demonstrate in a video the effectiveness of this technique. Not only are these, fairly hard rubber to begin with, these are parts that I would never treat this way. In other words, once they got to the point where they were cracked and deformed, I would throw these out and replace them with new parts. This would have been fantastic had I had a thin piece of rubber that was brittle. I could have shown you how it breaks, soaked it in the pine sol, and shown you how it was soft and supple. There is noticeable changes to these. I mean, they are far closer to the original shape. This one is expanded significantly. Of course, it was cracked and deformed the most. And they are a whole lot more pliable than they were when I dropped them in. Originally, they were almost rock hard. I mean, I could squeeze them and get them to move a little bit, but they are significantly better. So the pine sol worked. That doesn't make the video any better, but I think I can save it. So I mentioned that these were in the pine sol for 2 days, kind of. I came out here yesterday, they'd been in for a 24-hour soak, and there was almost no change. Then I remembered a technique that I came up with when I was trying to stabilize wood and elk antler for some grips that I was making. So the normal technique for stabilizing wood or antler, that kind of thing, is to soak it in a material that it's a liquid that is slightly plastic based, and it permeates into the wood, it permeates into the antler, and then you remove it from the liquid after soaking it for days, and you let it dry, and it'll help stabilize the inner structures of the wood. It'll help keep the antler from shrinking, that sort of thing. That process was taking way too long, and I had remembered seeing a cooking show where they had used vacuum as a way to marinate meats and things and get the flavor to infuse into what they were marinating way faster. And I thought, if that works in the culinary industry, why couldn't that work for other things? So I ended up getting this vacuum pack sealer. It just works with basic mason jars. You end up putting whatever you want inside. You fit this over the top and you draw a vacuum on it. When I did it with the wood and antler for my other project, it worked amazingly well. I mean, you could see bubbles of air coming out of whatever was being soaked in the stabilization liquid. And I could get the material stabilized in an hour, where it may take me 24 or 48 hours to do it, just letting it soak the old-fashioned way. So I thought, why can't we use that for this? So I threw these rubber pieces in this mason jar. I drew 25 inches of vacuum on it, which is not a perfect vacuum, but we're getting there. A perfect vacuum is like 29.92 maybe. It's almost 30 inches of mercury is a perfect vacuum. And I got it up to 25. And as soon as I did, bubbles started pouring out of this. And I have some video of that. You can see, if you look right there, there are bubbles coming out of this almost like the liquid was carbonated. I mean, they are coming out pretty aggressively. And they came out like that for hours. I mean, you could tell that the pine sol was working its way in, and any air that was trapped inside the rubber was working its way out. And because of that, I was able to significantly shorten the soak time. Now, this technique could be used for all kinds of things. Anything where you need a liquid to permeate in, and the traditional method is soaking. So people soak lifters overnight to get all the air out and fill them with oil. You could put lifters in a jar like this, fill it with oil, draw a vacuum, and probably get them completely full of oil and all the air out in a couple of minutes. There are tons of uses for this technique. You can get something like this at any place that sells canning goods. Super easy way to go, and is a fantastic technique. So I wish that I had better proof for you that pine sol is amazing for rubber. You're going to have to take my word for it. If you've got a piece of rubber that is not structural like these are, that is not required to make a watertight seal, and when I say watertight, like puddled water up against it. Again, wing window rubber, some of the rubber flat pieces that sometimes are used on doors, sometimes the rubber that's used on side windows, some of that kind of stuff, this would be a great technique for. This is hands down the best way to restore any old piece of rubber that you have to reuse. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it down in the comments and I will try and get it answered.
If you like what you've seen, please click like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.